On May 3, 2021, Paul Akridge vanished. That Monday afternoon, the 50-year-old was last seen dropping off his parents' car at his sister Selena's house in Keystone Heights, Florida. Surveillance footage captured him at 5:10 p.m., wearing a light bucket hat, sunglasses, and a mask that obscured most of his face. This was unusual. Paul was known for being relaxed and open with his family, never secretive, never distant. The footage raised immediate concerns. The Akridges were close. Daily check-ins were the norm. Paul's sudden silence was jarring. More than just phone calls stopped his Facebook activity, usually steady with check-ins and shared memories, came to a complete halt. Selena noticed immediately. So did his mother, alarmed. They began reaching out to friends, then neighbors, then law enforcement. Keystone Heights isn't a place where people just disappear. The small town in Clay County is bordered by lakes and oak trees, filled with tight-knit families who tend to each other's business. For a lifelong resident like Paul, someone rooted in the community vanishing without a word was simply out of character. What followed was a ripple of confusion and growing panic. That evening, Paul never returned home. His phone was silent. No bank activity, no calls, no sightings. The family filed a missing persons report within 24 hours. Deputies searched the area and reviewed the footage. It was clear. Paul had dropped off the car. Paul Akridge was born and raised in Keystone Heights, Florida, quiet community where family ties run deep and reputations last a lifetime. He was the only boy in a family of 4 children, surrounded by 3 sisters who adored him. He played baseball, basketball, and football with a level of determination that caught the attention of coaches and neighbors alike. What made him stand out wasn't just his performance on the field. It was his loyalty to the people around him. Teammates remembered him as a player who would sacrifice personal stats to lift up someone else. Coaches described him as coachable, humble, and fiercely dedicated. But baseball was his first love. In high school, he earned MVP honors more than once and led his team through seasons that are still talked about in Keystone Heights. His talent didn't go unnoticed. Paul played at Santa Fe Community College, then moved on to the University of Florida, and eventually Warner Southern College. To them, Paul wasn't just a brother, he was the heart of the household. His parents often joked that Paul was the favorite, and his sisters never argued. He was kind, dependable, and funny, in a way that made everyone feel safe. From a young age, Paul showed remarkable athletic talent. Though he faced challenges along the way, injuries, competition, and personal struggles, Paul's passion never faded. Off the field, that same loyalty extended to his family. Paul never missed a holiday, never skipped a birthday, and always showed up when someone needed him. His bond with Selena was especially close. They shared long talks, inside jokes, and a history of mutual trust that only strengthened with time. Paul's athletic career eventually gave way to everyday life, but his character remained the same. The traits that defined him, resilience, empathy, loyalty, continued to anchor him to the people who loved him. Which is why, when Paul went silent, the silence felt loud. It wasn't just the absence of a brother, it was the disappearance of someone whose presence had always been unwavering. Fishing wasn't just a hobby for Paul Akridge, it was a ritual, a quiet passion he shared with his father. From early mornings on the glassy waters of Santa Fe Lake to local weekend tournaments, Paul found peace in the rhythm of the cast and the stillness of the lake. He owned multiple rods, knew the seasonal behaviors of bass and bream, and took pride in his ability to outfish just about anyone in town. These trips weren't just about the fish. There were moments of connection, especially between father and son. It was during these times that Paul opened up. sharing stories, frustrations, or just soaking in the silence. His father once said that the lake brought out the best in Paul, focused and content. Beyond the water, Paul was known for his deep-rooted commitment to family. He never missed a Thanksgiving dinner, always showed up on Christmas morning, and made every effort to keep in touch, even if it was just a quick call or a funny meme on Facebook. He wasn't just present, he was involved. His bond with his sisters remained strong into adulthood, particularly with Sylvia. She describes Paul as her protector, the one who would show up without question if she ever needed help. Whether it was fixing her car or just listening on a rough day, Paul was there. He was fiercely loyal, not just in words, but in action. That's why, when he suddenly stopped responding, no one believed it was by choice. Paul was a constant in the lives of those he loved. For someone so rooted in family, his disappearance wasn't just strange, it was unthinkable. A hidden struggle. The descent into addiction bind Paul Akridge's loyalty and charm. There was a side of his life that few people saw, one marked by a long and painful struggle with addiction. It began in his college years. Around the same time he was juggling academics, baseball, and the pressure of maintaining a future in sports. What started as recreational drug use slowly turned into dependence, and eventually into something far more serious. Over the years, Paul's addiction deepened. There were periods of improvement, moments when he tried to get clean and reconnect fully with family life. But the grip of addiction proved stronger than any short-term recovery. His family, especially his sisters and mother, never gave up on him. They urged him to seek help, encouraged him to make better choices, and even staged interventions. But Paul often resisted, insisting he was managing it on his own. His legal troubles began to reflect the spiral. Arrest records, court appearances, and probation became part of his adult life. Still, Paul did his best to maintain a sense of normalcy. He kept fishing, he visited his family, he showed up when he could, but the addiction was always there, silently eroding his health and stability. Eventually, his body began to give out. Paul was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, a serious condition, affects the arteries in the lungs and the right side of the heart. He was hospitalized and spent time recovering, but the illness marked a turning point. He appeared more tired, less energetic, and increasingly withdrawn. Even then, he tried to downplay it, never wanting to burden others. Paul's life became a contradiction, beloved and dependable to those who knew him best, but quietly battling a force he couldn't seem to outrun. That vulnerability didn't go unnoticed. His struggle made him more isolated, and some believe it may have made him more susceptible to the wrong people who might have seen an opportunity in his weakness. A chilling warning. They're going to get me 3 days before he disappeared. Paul Akridge made a phone call that still haunts his sister Selena. His voice was tense, panicked. He told her plainly, "They're going to get me, and once they do, you'll never see me again." Selena was stunned. She tried to calm him down, pressing for more details. Who were they? What was going on? Paul wouldn't give names. He just kept repeating that these people were powerful, more powerful than the police, and that they would dispose of him without leaving a trace. This wasn't just paranoia. It was fear, raw and specific. Selena could hear it in his voice. She knew her brother well, and this wasn't a typical episode of anxiety or confusion. Something was wrong. Paul sounded certain that his life was in danger, and that he didn't have much time. Selena begged him to come over, to talk it out in person, or even to let her call someone. Paul refused. He said it was too late, that she couldn't protect him, and that getting others involved would only make things worse. Then he hung up. It was a moment Selena couldn't shake. In the days that followed, she replayed that conversation over and over. When Paul stopped responding to texts and calls, she knew something was terribly wrong. That phone call had been a warning, and It was the last real conversation she ever had with her brother. Law enforcement documented the call in their reports, but couldn't verify the threat. Paul never specified who was after him or why. There were no follow-up messages, no names, no details. Just a chilling statement from a man who believed, with full conviction, that someone was coming to end his life. It changed the tone of the entire case. Paul hadn't just vanished, he feared he was being hunted. The final sighting, May 3, 2021, on the day he vanished. Paul Akridge followed what appeared to be a normal routine until the final recorded moment of his life. That morning, Paul worked on his car in the driveway of his home. He was focused, even upbeat. According to neighbors who saw him, the footage didn't show panic or physical distress, but there was something deliberate in his movements. He didn't go inside. He simply left the car and walked off. Later, he borrowed his parents' vehicle and made the 45-minute drive to Polotka to pick up Kappa. No physical evidence of a struggle, just a man walking out of frame and into uncertainty. His cell phone was never recovered. His bank accounts remained untouched. There were no signs of travel, no contacts made, no trace left behind. It was as if Paul vanished into thin air. He returned to Keystone Heights later that afternoon, pulling into his sister Selena's driveway at 5:10 p.m. A surveillance camera captured him exiting the vehicle. He wore a light-colored bucket hat, sunglasses, and a mask, his face obscured, his head slightly lowered. That video is the last confirmed sighting of Paul. Afterward, Paul's phone went silent. No calls, no texts, no activity on social media. He never picked up his car again, and no witnesses have come forward to confirm seeing him anywhere past that moment. Investigators believe someone picked him up, but who and where they went remains unknown. No vehicle was seen on surveillance. No footprints. Law enforcement searched the surrounding area but found no clues. The timestamp of 5:10 p.m. now serves as a fixed point. A family in limbo. 4 years without Paul. In the 4 years since Paul Akridge vanished, his family has lived in a state of suspended grief, caught between hope and heartbreak, between searching and mourning. His mother, Denise, speaks softly now when she talks about her son. She still imagines him walking through the door, still holds on to the chance, however slim, that he might return. "I wouldn't ask questions," she says. "I would just hug him." Denise believes it wasn't just his health, it was heartbreak. They've organized community awareness events, posted flyers, followed every tip. They stay in close contact with the Clay County Sheriff's Office, hoping for an update that never seems to come. They've learned how exhausting hope can be. "He died of a broken heart," she says without hesitation. She believes someone, somewhere, knows what happened and that silence is protecting the wrong person. She refuses to let her brother become just another face in a stack of cold case files. Losing Paul was a blow the family never fully recovered from. Her eyes fill with tears when she recalls the sound of his voice, the way he always checked in, even on days when he wasn't feeling his best. The silence he left behind has become final words. A plea for justice. Paul Akridge is still missing. As of today, no suspects have been named, no arrests have been made. The investigation remains open with the Clay County Sheriff's Office, but leads have dwindled. With no physical evidence and no confirmed sightings, after 5:10 p.m. on May 3, 2021, the case remains painfully stagnant. Paul's family continues to cooperate with law enforcement and has made repeated public appeals for information. Their hope is simple. Anyone who knows something will finally come forward. Even the smallest detail could shift the investigation forward. A name, a location, a memory. In missing persons cases, silence is often the greatest enemy. The Clay County Sheriff's Office urges anyone with information to contact them directly or to submit an anonymous tip through First Coast Crime Stoppers. Information can be provided by calling 1-866-845-TIPS. A man with faults, yes, but also with loyalty, humor, and deep ties to those around him. His absence has left a void that time has not healed. Paul wasn't just a missing person, he was a son, a brother, an uncle, a friend, not for justice in the courtroom at least, not yet, but for something even more fundamental. The truth, this story does not end in speculation or theories. It ends with a family's plea. Someone out there knows what happened to Paul Akridge. And for the Akridge family, closure doesn't mean forgetting it. Means finally being able to move forward. If you know something, say something.